The night was heavy on the alien city. The sky burned with 3 moons and cold light fell on silver towers. Crowds filled the grand courtroom, their whispers sharp like knives. All eyes turned toward the center, where a young alien girl stood. In chains, her name was Elyra, a child of noble blood, but now no one spoke it with respect. Once her voice had been full of laughter. Once her eyes had held the glow of wonder. Now her face was pale, her hands shaking, her lips pressed tightly together. She waited for her sentence, her heart beating like a trapped bird. The judges sat high above, their robes dark, their eyes shining with cold fire. They were not men of mercy, they were the keepers of fear. They spoke her crime in voices that echoed across the chamber. She broke the sacred law. She helped the humans. She betrayed her own kind. The crowd gasped. Some cursed her name. Others whispered that it was unfair. But none dared to rise for her. None dared to speak the truth. For everyone knew this trial was not about justice. It was about silence. It was about power. Elyra trembled, but she did not cry. She remembered the night when soldiers stormed into her chamber. They dragged her through streets where once she had walked proud. Children threw stones. Women spat. Men turned their faces away. She had been young, only 15 years. Her sin was simple yet unforgivable. She had hidden a human traveler, a lost explorer from a distant world. She had given him food, water, and hope. The law of her people was clear. No alien must aid the humans. Humans were enemies. They were weak. They were dangerous. But Elyra had seen something different. She had seen kindness in his eyes. She had heard courage in his words. She had felt that humans were not monsters but mirrors, mirrors of what her own people had forgotten. The judges shouted again, their voices heavy with finality. Elyra of House Vena, you are guilty of treason. Your punishment shall be eternal. Her chains rattled as guards pulled her forward. The punishment chamber opened, filled with strange light and tools of pain. She froze, her heart screaming inside her chest. She wanted to beg, she wanted to fight, but her voice was gone. The crowd leaned forward, eager, hungry for her suffering. The judges gave the order. Blind her, strip her of her gift of sight. Let her never see the stars again, and let her womb be sealed, for she is cursed. She shall never bring life into this world. Her scream cut through the silence. The blade of fire came close. Her eyes burned with unbearable pain. Darkness crashed down, eternal and heavy. She reached for light, but it was gone, forever gone. Her body shook as they marked her. Her breath broke in sobs. Her heart broke in silence. And when the pain ended, she fell to the cold floor. Her eyes open but empty. Her world now endless night. The guards dragged her out, throwing her to the edge of the city. No family came for her, no friend dared to follow. She lay on the stones, blind, broken, alone. The cold wind touched her face like a cruel hand. Still, inside her chest, a small spark refused to die. Her mind whispered, I am still alive. She pressed her palms to the ground, feeling its rough truth. If she had no eyes, she would listen. If she had no future, she would endure. In the distance, the people celebrated her punishment. They danced and laughed, believing justice was done. But far above, among the stars, a hidden truth waited. Her sin was never a sin. It was a secret they feared, and while her eyes were blind, her story was not finished. Her punishment was only the beginning. The universe had not forgotten her, and one day the stars would return to her sight. The world turned dark for Elyra. The courtroom faded. The screams and whispers became memories. What remained was only silence, and the black weight of blindness. She was thrown to the edge of the city, left to wander like a shadow. At first, she stumbled through streets, reaching out with trembling hands. Children mocked her, their voices cruel, their laughter sharp. Vendors pushed her away, dogs barked at her scent. No home welcomed her. No friend returned her call. The noble blood in her veins meant nothing now. Her name, once spoken with respect, was now a curse. She became the blind one, the barren one, the cursed girl, and every whisper tore her soul deeper, but she did not die. She crawled into the ruins of an old temple outside the city. The stone walls cracked, vines twisting like veins. The wind howled through broken windows, but the place gave her shelter. Every night she lay there, hands on the cold floor. She remembered the stars she once saw. She remembered the sky with 3 moons. And she whispered to herself, "They cannot take my memory." Her heart bled, but it still beat. 15 years passed like rivers of sorrow. Her world was sound and touch. She learned to survive with the echo of her steps. She counted her breaths. She listened to the rustle of leaves, the drip of water, the flight of wings. In time, she became strong in silence. She could hear a rat moving across stone. She could sense the tremor of footsteps. Her fingers learned the shape of every wall, every corner of her ruined home. Blind but not broken, yet inside her, questions never stopped burning. Why was kindness a crime? Why was helping a human a sin? Who feared the truth so much they had to blind her? She wondered if the human she saved still lived. Did he remember her, or was she lost in history? The city outside moved on. New rulers rose. Wars came and went. But whispers about her punishment never fully died. Old mothers warned children, "Obey the law, or you will end like her." Still, there were others who spoke differently. Travelers who came near the ruins sometimes left food. They did not speak, they did not stay. But she could smell fresh bread, or touch a warm cloth. Perhaps not all had forgotten her. One night, as the wind screamed through the broken temple, Elyra sat with her back to the wall, her fingers brushing the dust. She heard distant voices, strangers whispering. Her ears sharpened, her heart raced. They spoke of secrets, of forbidden knowledge, and one word cut into her like fire. The girl. She froze, her breath shallow. Were they hunting her even, now after all these years? Or were they protecting the truth she carried? The silence of 15 years was no shield. Danger still waited. She lifted her face to the darkness and whispered, "If the gods blinded me, they left me alive for a reason." Her voice was steady now, not broken. In her blindness, she had found a kind of vision. A vision, not of eyes, but of spirit. Still, every night her dreams returned to the moment of pain. She saw burning light. She felt her eyes turn to ash. She heard the cruel laughter of judges, and she woke trembling, clutching her chest. The punishment lived inside her like a scar that never healed, yet hope was stubborn. She felt it in the warmth of the sun on her skin. She felt it in the rhythm of her heartbeat. And deep inside, she believed that her darkness would not last forever. The years carved her into someone new. No longer the soft, noble girl. She was lean, fierce, patient. A woman who had walked through endless night and still stood. Her enemies thought she had been silenced. But silence had made her stronger. Her blindness had become a weapon of will. And though she did not yet know it, her story was not forgotten, for, far away, across stars and deserts, a traveler remembered her. A human who had once been saved by her hands, and he was coming. His steps moved closer each day. His heart carried the light she had lost. And soon, the silence of 15 years would break. The wind howled through the ruins where Elyra lived. Night after night, she sat in silence. Her blind eyes turned toward the sky she could no longer see. 15 years of darkness had taught her patience, had sharpened her other senses. She knew the song of every bird, the sound of every insect, the weight of every raindrop on broken stone. But on one strange evening, she felt something different. The air shifted, heavy with a presence she could not name. Footsteps echoed across the abandoned courtyard, steady, strong, unfamiliar. Elyra froze, pressing her palm to the ground, listening to the rhythm of each step. The footsteps were not like the people of her city. They carried a slower beat, a different weight. Her breath caught, her body tensed. For the first time in years, she whispered aloud, "Who is there?" No answer came at first, only silence. Then a voice, low and warm, spoke in a language almost forgotten to her ears, a human tongue. Her heart pounded, her chest tight. Could it be, after all these years, had one of them returned? The man stepped closer, the crunch of gravel beneath his boots. "I am not your enemy," he said, his tone gentle, almost pleading. Elyra's hands clenched, her memories flashing like fire. She remembered the first human she had helped, the one who caused her punishment. Was this man connected to him, or was it a trap? "Not come closer," she warned, her voice trembling but sharp. She had survived alone for 15 years. She would not be taken easily. But the man did not retreat. Instead, he lowered himself onto the stone floor, his movements slow, careful, as if not to frighten her. "I have searched for you," he whispered. "Stories of a blind girl who was punished for helping one of my kind reached me. I came across deserts, through forbidden lands, only to find if it was true." Elyra's lips parted, shock running. Through her veins, few remembered her crime, fewer dared to speak of it. Yet this stranger, this human, carried her story across stars. Why, she wondered? What did he seek from her? The human's voice softened. "I owe you more than words long ago. You gave hope to one of us. That hope has lived, passed down, kept alive in secret. You were blinded for kindness, but your act was not forgotten." Her breath shivered, 1,000 questions burning her tongue. Was the traveler she helped still alive? Was he safe? But fear held her back. Her mistrust ran deep. Too many times had promises turned to pain. The human seemed to sense her doubt. He reached into his pack, the sound of cloth and metal shifting. "I did not come empty-handed," he said. "There is something I wish to give you, something your people denied you." Elyra's fingers trembled as she reached out. She brushed the edge of cool metal, strange, smooth, alive with energy. "What is this?" she asked, her voice small. "A chance," the man replied, his tone heavy with meaning. "A chance to see again." Her heart stopped. Her mind refused. To believe sight was a dream she had buried long ago. The thought of light burned like fire in her chest, but suspicion returned. Was this cruelty? A false gift? Why would a stranger bring such hope? The human did not press her, he only said, "Think of it as a seed. If you let it, it may grow. If not, I will not force you." His voice was steady, not demanding, only offering. Elyra sat, in silence, her breath shaking. For years she had survived without light, without trust. Now for the first time she felt the fragile edge of choice. The night deepened, the ruins echoing with silence. Elyra touched the metal again, holding it with care. Her mind screamed with fear, yet her heart whispered with longing. She wanted to believe, she wanted to see the stars again. But belief had cost her everything before. The stranger did not rush her. He simply waited, his presence calm. Finally, Elyra lifted her face toward him, blind eyes clouded but fierce. "If you betray me, I will curse your name until my last breath," she said. The human bowed his head, his voice soft. "I will not betray you." In that moment, something shifted inside her. For 15 years, no one had spoken to her with honesty. For 15 years, no one had dared to offer hope. And now, a stranger from another world had placed it in her hands. Her fingers clutched the device, her chest rising with heavy breath. She did not yet know if she would accept his gift, but one truth was clear. Her silent years had ended. A visitor had come, and with him, the storm of destiny. The night was cold in the ruined temple. The stars above shone, but Elyra could not see them. She sat in silence, clutching the strange device the human had placed in her hands. Her heart beat fast, caught between fear and hope. The man's voice lingered in her ears, steady, patient. "This can bring back what was stolen from you," he had said. She turned, the object slowly, her fingers tracing its smooth surface. It hummed faintly, alive, as if it carried a hidden heartbeat. 15 years she had lived in darkness. 15 years she had survived without light. Now one choice could change everything. But trust was a wound that had never healed. "Why?" she asked suddenly, her voice sharp. "Why would you risk so much for me, a stranger?" Accursed one. The human's reply was soft, but filled with conviction. Because once, you gave light to one of us when we were lost. Because kindness should not end in eternal night. Her throat tightened. Memories burned her chest. She remembered the young human she had once saved, the one who had smiled despite his fear, the one who made her believe that humans were not monsters. Was this man here because of him? Was this his brother, his friend, his son? She could not tell, but the bond was real. The stranger moved closer, but not too close. He respected her distance, her pain. "The choice is yours," he said. "I cannot force you, but if you want to see again, I will guide you." Elyra trembled, her blind eyes turning toward him. She felt the weight of the moment pressing on her soul. If she accepted, she would open herself to hope. If she refused, she would stay in the darkness she had learned to endure. Her hands shook, her breath shallow. Finally, she whispered, "Do it." The word escaped like a prayer, like a blade cutting through chains. The man nodded, his footsteps soft on the cracked stone. He gently placed his hand over hers, steady and calm. "Close your eyes," he said, though her eyes were already blind. "Breathe slowly. Trust the rhythm of your heart." She obeyed, her body tense. He lifted the device and she felt its cold frame touch her temples. A spark ran through her skin, sharp and electric. She gasped, clutching at the stone floor. But the man's voice anchored her. "Stay with me. Do not give in to fear." Light, faint and distant, flickered in her darkness. At first, it was only a glimmer, like fireflies trapped behind her eyelids. Her heart screamed, her breath caught, tears spilled down her cheeks, for after so long she felt light again. The device hummed louder, her head heavy with pressure. The darkness cracked, tiny threads of brightness seeping through. Shapes began to form, broken and blurred. A wall, a shadow, the faint outline of the man before her. She cried out, half in terror, half in joy. Her hands reached forward, desperate. She touched his shoulder, his face, his presence now more than sound. She could see, dimly, weakly, but enough to know he was real. Her body shook, overwhelmed. The ruins around her glimmered with vague light. The stars above appeared as distant sparks. For 15 years she had lived in nothing. Now, even this blurred vision was a miracle. The human steadied her, his hand strong against her trembling arm. "Easy," he whispered. "Your sight will return slowly. Your eyes must learn again." Elyra laughed through her tears, a sound broken yet beautiful. "I can see, I can see," she whispered over and over. The man smiled, relief softening his weary face. "You were never meant to remain blind," he said. "They tried to bury you in darkness, but light finds its way." Elyra turned her face upward, blinking at the sky. The moons were only pale circles to her, but they were there. She remembered their glow from childhood. Now they returned like old friends, yet fear crept into her joy. If she could see again, others would know. The leaders who punished her would not allow her return to light. Her survival had depended on her silence. Now her rebirth might bring hunters to her door. She swallowed her fear, pressing her hand against her chest. "I am alive," she whispered. "Alive in ways they cannot control." The man's gaze hardened, as if reading her thoughts. "You must be careful," he warned. "Your enemies will not forgive what I have restored." But Elyra's spirit burned. Her blind years had made her strong. Now her sight, even if fragile, gave her purpose. She would no longer hide in ruins. No longer be a forgotten shadow. She would rise with her vision and her truth. For the first time in 15 years, Elyra walked toward the temple door, her steps shaky, her sight blurred, but her will unbroken. The night stretched wide, full of danger, full of promise, and she whispered to herself, "The stars belong to me again." The ruins were quiet, yet Elyra's heart was louder than the night. Her sight, though dim and fragile, had returned like a dream. Shadows and shapes formed in her eyes. Colors flickered faintly. After 15 years of blindness, even broken, vision felt like a universe reborn. The human sat across from her, his face no longer only a voice. She saw the outline of his jaw, the dark blur of his hair, the faint glow of his eyes in the moonlight. He watched her with patience, but also with weight, for he had carried a truth across stars, and now was the moment to release it. "You wonder why they punished you," he said, his voice calm but heavy. "You wonder why mercy to a stranger was treated as a crime." Elyra's throat tightened, her breath shallow. She had asked this question every night for 15 years, and no answer had ever come. She leaned forward, her weak eyes searching his shadowed face. "Tell me," she whispered. "Tell me why they took everything from me." The man lowered his gaze, as if the truth itself burned him. Then he spoke slowly, each word like a blade. "They feared you," he said. Her lips parted, confusion in her expression. "Feared me," she repeated, her voice trembling. "Yes," he answered. "Because you uncovered something you were never meant to see?" Elyra froze, her mind spinning. "What did I uncover?" she demanded, her voice sharper. The man's tone deepened. "You saw that humans were not enemies but equals. You saw that your leader's laws were built on lies, and that simple truth, if spoken, could break their power." Her chest ached, her memories rushed back. The human she saved long ago had spoken words of courage. He had told her of human dreams, of their longing for peace. She had believed him, and for that belief she had been blinded. Her hands clenched into fists, nails biting into her palms. "They destroyed my life, not because I sinned, but because I knew the truth," she whispered. The man nodded, his eyes glimmering with sorrow. "They called it treason, but it was fear. Fear that your kindness would spread. Fear that others would see the same truth you saw. Fear that unity could end their control." Elyra felt fire in her chest. Her enemies had stolen her sight, her future, her honor. But what they truly wanted was silence, and she had given them silence for 15 years. Her voice broke, heavy with rage and grief. "All that pain, all that darkness, only because I dared to care." The man's hand tightened on his knee, his own anger simmering. "They wanted you forgotten, but you lived, and now, with your sight returning, their lies can no longer stay hidden." Elyra's weak vision blurred with tears. She remembered the faces of the judges, the cold fire in their eyes. She remembered the crowd that turned away, the chains biting into her wrists, all of it for a truth she now held burning inside her chest. Her head bowed, her voice low but fierce. "Then I will not hide anymore. If they feared me once, they will fear me again. But this time, I will not be silent." The man looked at her, pride softening his tired face. "You have the strength, but strength will bring danger," he warned. "They will hunt you again. They will not allow you to rise." Elyra lifted her chin, her eyes faintly catching the moonlight. "I was hunted once, I was broken once, but now I see, and I will not bow." For a long time, silence filled the ruins. The night creatures sang, the wind carried whispers through broken stone. Elyra sat with her hands pressed to her chest. The truth weighed heavy but also bright. It was pain, but it was also freedom. The man finally spoke again, his tone softer. "There is more," he said. Elyra turned to him, her breath catching. "What more?" she asked cautiously. He hesitated, then revealed, "The human you once saved, he lived. He carried your memory with him, and through him your story reached many. You were never forgotten." Elyra gasped, her eyes wide, her heart trembling. He lived, the boy she had saved. For years she had wondered if he had perished. For years she had feared her sacrifice was in vain, but now she knew. Her kindness had not died. It had bloomed. Tears slid down her cheeks, but her lips curved into a small, broken smile. Her punishment had stolen her world, but it had not stolen her meaning. Her act of mercy had lived beyond, her carried by strangers, And now, one of them sat before her, giving her back the gift of sight. Elyra wiped her tears, her voice steady again. Then let them come. Let them hunt me. Let them curse me. I will not run. I will not hide. For the truth is mine, and no blade can blind it again. The man rose slowly, his silhouette strong against the silver moons. We will face them together, he said, his words like a vow. Elyra stood as well, shaky but firm, her eyes faint but burning with light. Her years of silence had ended, the truth had been revealed, and now the storm was coming. The night. After the truth was revealed, the wind carried danger. Elyra felt it in her bones, the air too still, the silence too sharp. The human had warned her the leaders would not forgive her return to sight, and soon the hunters came. It began with footsteps outside the ruined temple, not one pair, but many, heavy boots crushing the earth. Voices whispered orders, steel rattled, the sound of crossbows being drawn filled the air. Elyra's breath quickened, her weak eyes catching faint flickers of movement beyond the doorway. Shadows gathered, tall and armed. Their faces, hidden by dark masks, her body froze, memories of chains and fire flooding back, but this time she was not alone. The human stepped forward, calm but fierce. He carried a weapon unlike theirs, a blade of light that hummed in his hand. Stay behind me, he whispered. But Elyra shook her head, her voice steady. I hid for 15 years. I will not hide. Tonight, the hunters burst into the temple, their shouts echoing off broken stone. Arrows flew, steel clashed, the air shook with violence. Elyra stumbled, her vision blurred, yet she forced her senses to guide her. She heard the whistle of arrows before they struck. She ducked, she moved, surviving by instinct sharper than sight. The human fought with speed and skill. His blade cut through weapons, sparks flying, but there were too many, their numbers endless. Elyra grabbed a fallen staff from the floor. Her hands knew the shape. Her ears knew the rhythm of battle, and she struck. A blow to a soldier's knee, another to his jaw. Her body remembered survival. Blind years had forged her into something fierce. Still, the enemy pressed harder, forcing them toward the temple's rear. Run! The human shouted, his voice heavy with urgency. Elyra hesitated, her pride burning. But she knew he was right. If they stayed, they would die. Together, they fled through a broken wall into the dark forest beyond. Branches whipped their faces, roots tangled their feet. Behind them, the hunters followed, torches blazing, dogs snarling. The night became a storm of pursuit. Elyra's lungs burned, her legs weak from years of stillness. But fear pushed her forward. She stumbled, fell, but the human lifted her up. Again, do not stop, he urged, his voice like fire. The world is wider than their chains, keep running. The forest thickened, shadows swallowing them. Elyra's sight faltered, yet her hearing sharpened. She heard the dogs closing in, the snap of twigs beneath armored boots, and she whispered to herself, not again. They will not break me again. They reached a river, its current wild, its roar filling the night. The human looked at her, his eyes hard. We have no choice, he said. Elyra nodded, fear tightening her chest. Together they plunged into the icy water. The river swallowed them, pulling them. Downstream, the hunters' shouts echoed behind, lost in the roar. Elyra's body fought to breathe, water choking her lungs. But the human's hand never let go, guiding her through the current. At last, they tumbled onto the far bank, gasping, shaking, alive. The forest on this side was older, darker, untouched by the city's rule. Legends said spirits lived here that no hunter dared enter. But Elyra felt the hunter's presence still, relentless, unstoppable. They will follow, she whispered, her teeth chattering. The human nodded grimly. Yes, but the deeper we go, the harder it will be for them. They pressed on, deeper into the wild. Elyra's sight flickered, shapes growing sharper. The forest glowed faintly with strange lights. She saw trees with silver bark, streams that shimmered like liquid stars. It was dangerous, but also beautiful. Her heart ached with wonder. For the first time, she was seeing more than shadows. The world was returning to her, even in the midst of fear. Behind them the hunt continued. Arrows thudded into trees, torches lit the night sky. Every breath was a gamble, every step a race. But Elyra no longer felt only fear. She felt fury, she felt resolve. They had taken her youth, her sight, her womb. They would not take her freedom again. She gripped her staff tighter, her eyes narrowing at the sounds behind. "Let them come," she whispered. "I am not the girl they chained. I am the woman they created." The human glanced at her, a faint smile in his tired face. "You are stronger than they ever imagined," he said. His words gave her strength, like light in the dark. And though the hunters still closed in, though danger clawed at their heels, Elyra felt something new burning inside her chest. Not only survival, not only anger, but the fire of destiny. The chase was not just escape, it was the path toward her reckoning. The forest grew darker, the night deeper. But Elyra walked forward, her sight sharpening, her will unbreakable. Behind her, the hunters roared. But ahead of her, the stars waited. And she whispered into the wind, "You blinded me once, but you cannot blind me forever." The forest stretched wide, old and wild. The hunters' voices echoed faint behind, but Elyra knew they were not far. Each step forward brought her closer to the heart of the woods, and closer to the fate she could no longer escape. The human walked beside her, his weapon dim but ready. He had fought for her, bled for her, and carried the truth she needed. But now he too was weary, his shoulders heavy with the weight of their journey. Still his eyes held fire, the same fire that now burned inside Elyra. For days they moved through shadows and rivers. The hunters did not stop. Their torches lit the night like a curse. It was not only her they wanted, but the message she carried. If Elyra returned to the world, their lies would fall. At last, the forest opened into a valley, and there, at its center, rose a black stone tower, ancient and vast. The human stopped, his breath sharp. "This is their fortress," he whispered. Elyra's weak but growing sight confirmed it. Dark banners whipped in the wind, guards patrolled the walls. This was the nest of her enemies, the place where her life had been stolen 15 years. Her chest tightened, her knees shook. She remembered the faces of the judges, their cruel eyes burning with false justice. She remembered the chains, the flames, the darkness that followed. And now she stood before them again. The human turned. To her, his voice low. "We can run, we can disappear into the stars, but if you choose to face them, it will be dangerous, maybe death." Elyra lifted her chin, her eyes narrowing with resolve. "I have run enough. This ends where it began." Together they walked into the valley. The hunters spotted them, shouts rising, weapons drawn. But Elyra did not flinch. She moved with steady steps. The human stood at her side, ready for the storm. The great hall of the tower opened. The rulers sat high, cloaked in silver and shadow. Their voices rose in disbelief. "The cursed girl lives, the blind one sees," they whispered. Fear flickered in their eyes, hidden beneath anger. Elyra stepped forward, her voice strong though her body trembled. "You called me traitor. You blinded me, you sealed my womb. Not because I sinned, but because I saw the truth." Her words cut the hall like blades. The crowd of guards shifted uneasily, whispers spreading, for truth was more dangerous than any sword. The leaders roared. "Back lies all lies. She stands with the humans, she is corruption." But Elyra raised her hand, her weak vision catching the light of the moons. "No, you are the corruption. You built fear to hold power. You called mercy a crime. You called kindness treason. But tonight I speak so all may hear. Your blindness is the true curse." The human stepped beside her, his blade gleaming, but Elyra lifted her staff, her voice ringing louder. "I do not come for blood. I do not come for revenge. I come for choice, for freedom." If you wish to kill me, then kill me before all, but the truth will not die with me." The hall shook with silence. Even the hunters who had chased her now wavered. They looked at her, then at their rulers, for the power of her voice was stronger than chains, stronger than blades, stronger than fear. One leader rose, his face twisted with rage. "Seize her," he shouted, but the guards hesitated, their grips faltering. Some lowered their weapons, others stepped back, for they too had heard the truth. They too felt the weight of justice long denied. Elyra stood tall, her sight blurred but her vision clear. She raised her staff high. "You blinded me once, but you cannot blind the world," she declared. Her words thundered across the chamber. The leaders paled, their power cracking, for control built on lies cannot withstand the light of truth. The human placed his hand on her shoulder, steady, proud. "You have already won," he whispered. Elyra's lips trembled into a faint smile, not a smile of triumph, but of release. The rulers screamed, their voices hollow, but their grip on the crowd was gone. The guards turned away. The hunters dropped their torches. The hall echoed with a silence that was not fear but change. Elyra lowered her staff, her heart heavy yet free. She had chosen not vengeance, but truth, not destruction, but hope. And in that choice, she broke the chains of 15 years. She turned to the human, her voice quiet but strong. "Their judgment blinded me, but my heart sees clearer than ever." The man bowed his head, his eyes filled with respect. "You are no longer the cursed one," he said. "You are the beginning." Elyra stepped out of the hall, the night air cold but clean. The moons shone above, no longer hidden. Her vision was still weak, blurred and broken, but her spirit saw more than any eyes could. The chase was over, the silence ended. Her punishment had become her power, and her final choice had rewritten destiny. Elyra walked into the future, not as a victim, but as a light no darkness could ever bury.